Hey there! Today we're going to be creating this detailed moon using only EEVEE and Blender 4.2. Let's get started. Let's start by going to the NASA CGI Moon Kit website. I'll include a link in the description below. First off, we want to download the color map. So select this drop down and I'm going to stick with the 2K version. There's lots to choose from, and depending on your needs, you may want something higher, but for my purposes, the 2K is quite detailed. Go ahead and click download on that. Go down to the displacement, and I'm going to choose the version that's closest to the 2K size. So I'm going to go with this 5760. Go ahead and click download on that. And now let's head back to Blender. Select your default cube, then hit delete to get rid of that. Now we're going to press Shift and A. We're going to add in a mesh UV sphere. Right click Shade Smooth, and now you can hit M on the keyboard, add a new collection. Let's rename this to Moon. Hit Enter, and now you can hit 2 on the keyboard, which shows only the second collection, or you could just hide the first collection. That's all we need to do on this tab for now, although we could switch to either the material or the rendered preview. Let's head over to the UV editing tab. This is where we would usually have to UV unwrap our model, but what we can see, because we use the default mesh, is that our model is perfectly unwrapped. So we don't need to do anything else here this time. Let's head over to the shading tab, and we can bring up this bottom section, zoom in a little bit on our mesh, which will be our moon very shortly. Let's go ahead and select this drop down. We already have a default material, which we can rename as moon, and we can zoom out just a touch and then slide these over. Now, typically we would add an image texture node here, then click open and navigate to our file, but I've already prepped by using the file browser. If you want to have the same setup, you can just use the file browser to navigate to where you saved your files. I don't need that node right now, so I'm just going to drag in the color image, and that's automatically going to add a node for us, which is quite handy. Now if we connect the color to the base color, we immediately see some of our moon texture. Go ahead and bring this roughness up to 0.9. You see that adds a little bit more texture, but we still don't have our bumps and displacement. So let's go ahead and add our displacement image as well. And what we're going to do now is press Shift and A, search for displacement, drop that in, connect color to the height, and connect displacement to displacement over here. And just to clean this up a little bit, you can press Shift and right mouse button to get a connector, which you can then slide over, and we can move this over. Do it one more time. Just press G to move those to where you want them, and that just makes it so you can have a nice clean node map seeing all of your connections. From here we can already see some of our textures coming through, and what we want to do though is enhance it a little bit more. So come down here to your material properties, scroll down until you see the settings option, and we want to continue to scroll. Right here where it says displacement, we want to set that to displacement and bump, and you see that that gives us a little bit more detail. Let's go ahead and set that scale to a 0.3, and we can change the mid-level to a 0.2, and that just gives us detail without shrinking or distorting our model too much. Another thing that we can do to add a little bit more detail is right here in this color space for our displacement map, we can switch this from RGB to non-color, and you see that gives us a bit more detail as well. So if 0.3 is too much for you, you could change this to a 0.2. This is really going to be personal preference. If your object is high in the sky, you may want to see the extra detail, but you may not. So personal preference, I'm going to set mine back to a 0.3 because I like the way that looks. Another thing that you could do, and I like doing this on my model, is drop down this emission here. Then we're just going to connect this color to our color and change this to a 0.2. And that just lightens up the model a little bit. That's going to be personal preference, not at all mandatory. So now what we can do is head back to our layout tab. And we see it doesn't look great right now, and that's because we have our light turned off. So just enable that first collection. And what we can do if we want to make it appear as though we have phases of the moon, so we could do a blood moon. Just come here to the light details, change this to a sun, drop that down to a 7, and then we can start playing around with our colors. And you see right there, we have a pretty good looking blood moon without too much effort. From there, it's just a matter of setting up your camera and getting the view that you want to see. And you see, press F12, we have a nice render, but if you want to make that look even better, you could either come here to your render properties and come down to film, change that to transparent, so when you render, it's going to be a image without a background. Alternatively, what you could do is leave transparent selected, but also come to the world properties and change the world color so that it's flat black. And that is it. So continue to play around with the lighting and the camera for your project, and you have a completely rendered detailed moon using EEVEE in under 5 minutes. Let me know in the comments below how you made out and perhaps even which color you like the best. I personally was torn between the blue and the red, but it depends on the project, I guess. Don't forget to click the like and subscribe. Lets me know that you like what I'm doing here, and I'll continue to produce more content. Look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.